Okay, so welcome back to your course on the cognitive biases, alright? The allures, the heuristics, the patterns, the tendencies and fallacies, and all these other little names that we use to describe these things. But today, we are talking about a very special one, and that is the media bias. Now, why do I say it's a very special one? Well, because everybody has some experience with this one. In fact, it's not even some experience. This is like a day-to-day, hour by hour, even minute to minute sort of effect that the media has on you. Now, it might not be all of it, like when I go through the definition and everything, might not be exactly what you're expecting. So I think you're going to enjoy this one. Let me go ahead and put the definition out there, though. So if I gave you a textbook definition of the media bias, right, as close as I can get anyways, it basically says things that the media covers, that the media comes up with, the things that the media pays attention to, or just any of that stuff, you're more likely to pay attention to yourself, you're more likely to believe a little bit, and down that rabbit hole we go, right? Now, you might say, well, I don't believe everything the media says, or the news, or whatever it is, and yeah, that's perfectly fine, I 100% understand, but there is a secret to the media bias, and that's that even if you don't believe or agree with whatever it is that they're talking about, or their opinions, or what they're covering, you are being influenced still. Because think of it this way. Whatever it is they're talking about, whether you agree or disagree, they are controlling, okay, what you're paying attention to. They can show anything in media. This isn't just like the news on TV or ads or anything. It's a lot of that, but it's also like other things, right? Like I like to say a lot. You walk into a movie theater, you're going to see 200 or 300 advertisements for Coca-Cola. That is media bias. All right, trust me. You, everybody who has a Coke, you see it on there. Even if they're not even drinking Coke, if they're holding a drink, it says Coca-Cola on it. You see it on the ads, and even like when the movie comes up, they're like, "Hey, let's go to the lobby and get something to eat and get some Coke or whatever." You see what I'm saying? But by the time you go and see your movie and get out of there, you've probably seen 200 or 300. Okay, ads for Coke. And it doesn't have to be Coke. It can be anything. Think about anything that you see often a lot. Okay, often a lot. But often, right? Or a lot, right? So you can see people with their cell phones all the time. If anybody has like a certain kind of a cell phone, for example. Okay, either it's an Android or it's an Apple, and you see the insignia of those brands. Brands is a really powerful media bias, by the way. Every single time, like, when you walk into a Starbucks and people have their laptops open and you see the Apple on the outside of it, that's media bias. Whether or not you like Apple, whether you like Coca-Cola, you're still getting exposed to it, and that does have an effect on your brain. So let me go ahead and give us a quick example here. In fact, let's use this color. Let's use blue for this. I think y'all like this one, but we'll see. Okay. Let's say that the media, in all of its different forms, whether it's books or movies or the news or whatever it is, covers a story that's like this, okay? So we have this going on here. And what is this? Well, this is the ocean, okay? Here's the ocean, all right? And let's say the rest of it, the ocean, it goes up to here, and down here is the shore. Okay, we'll draw the shore. Here, we'll draw the shore kind of brown. And we'll just draw right here. Here's the line of the shore and everything in here. Okay, you got some bystanders. They're tanning on the beach, or they're playing volleyball or whatever. You got 1 or 2 dudes that are maybe standing out here near it. Maybe you got somebody that's out here swimming. Okay, in the beach. This is the beach. Everybody knows what the beach is. Now, check this out. We have this situation right here that the media generally likes to cover when this happens. Okay? And that is let's do it this way. So, that right there is a shark fin. Okay? Here's a shark fin. Now, what is this going to do to everybody who is on the beach, especially the people who are in the water, right? That's correct. It's going to make them freak out, right? You see a shark fin, you're like, oh God, everybody watch out. There's a shark out there. You're going to get eaten and die, is what your brain is thinking. And rightly so. If you see some sharks out there and you see these fins, these dorsal fins, right? That's the classic shark. Here, let's put a little rippling of the water around it because it's swimming, right? And you see this, it's probably better that you not get near that than that you get near it if you have a choice, right? But here's the deal. Why is this scary to us? Because of media bias. Here's the deal. Okay, I know I keep saying that, but here's the deal. They say that, especially, and this is globally, okay, you are some 50 times more likely to die from an elephant attacking you or something than you are from a shark. Now, obviously, if you spend 8 hours a day in the water and you never see an elephant, that number is a little different from you. If you, like, I don't know, work in a zoo and you work with elephants, or you are out in wilderness where there are elephants and you get near them often, it's a little bit more likely than for people who aren't. But globally, they say, 50 times, I believe, and it might be more some years. 50 times as often people get killed by just elephants. But we don't think about that as scary like we do this, okay? There are a few overlapping reasons as to why that is, all right? One of them is, well, when you're in the water, you are practically helpless. This dude is not dead, by the way. He's swimming, okay? I should have probably made his arms do this or something. He's not just floating out there, he's swimming, okay? So don't worry about that. He's good. He may or may not even know about the shark. And he's close to the shore too, so the shark is probably not even gonna get near him. Okay, so it's a happy ending. Most of them are, by the way. There are very few shark attacks per I guess you would say, people that are actually in the water. The ratio is really poor. Like, if you were thinking, am I going to get attacked by a shark? The likelihood is very poor. It's not zero. Like, you could get attacked by things that aren't sharks. You're probably more likely to honestly get bit by another person at the beach than a shark, right? I read this, I'm not sure 100% what the numbers are, but that you're more likely to have to go to the ER by getting bit by another person than you are by even a dog. Okay, which is really interesting. Yeah, at least in some areas, they have people go to the ER more often from getting bit by other people than by dogs. You're definitely more likely to get bit by another person, even at the beach, than a shark. Okay, I mean, you could be swimming in the water and someone's swimming near you, they don't see you, you accidentally, I don't know, your arm goes out and slaps them in the face and they accidentally bite you because they're swimming, they don't know what's going on, so there you go. Usually when a shark bites people, by the way, it's an accident. I mean, they meant to do it, but they didn't meant to bite a person. They're just like, oh, I'm hungry, let's go, there's just something out there that looks like a seal or something. We all hear these stories. Now, why don't the stories sink in? Well, because media bias, they cover it whenever somebody does get attacked and dies by a shark. They cover it extensively. They're like, man, look at all of the blood and the people are missing limbs and they're trying to save them, but they can't and they died in the ER or just any of that stuff. You see what I mean? So it's very graphic. Graphic, by the way, is a tool of the media bias. Nobody really gets feeds in their news feed or on social media or just whatever, being like, oh yeah, there was another elephant attack today in the stampede and it killed a guy or two or maybe several people because of that happening. Although, like I said, globally, you're like 50 times more likely, it might be more than that, to get killed by an elephant on a year-to-year basis than you are a shark. Does that make sense? Okay, but that's not interesting to people because the media made this interesting because when we're in the water, we're practically helpless, right? A shark, this is their domain. They're the opposite of helpless, right? But when we're here and there's an elephant or something, first of all, elephants don't eat people, right? Sharks theoretically could eat people, and they sometimes do. Like once in a while there's a man-eater shark, but it's not as often as something like Jaws would have you guess. They say most of the time when a shark attacks a person, they figure it out by tasting them, and they're like, whoops, and they spit them back out, and they're like, that is not what we were looking for. All right, this is not like a good meal for me. Is usually what happens. We've all heard those stories, but this situation sticks out much more prominently because of media bias. Because media bias will have you believe that here are all these sharks out here and you may become a victim really soon or somebody you love or something. Yeah, of course you could. You could, like I said, you could get bit by another person and they get infected and you're put in the hospital. It could happen, right? And that's more likely to happen than the shark, just like I was saying before. So the media would have you believe that. right? Especially because of things like movies or media, like Jaws and stuff. It's scary, like if you watch it, because we put ourselves in the position of the person getting chased by the great white shark or whatever it is, and that's where that scariness comes from. Your amygdala is freaking out, like, oh man, we're gonna get eaten, right? Even though you're just watching it. Okay, so that is a good example, basically, of media bias, right? Your brain, because they also know, the media and most people just know this in general, that your brain will react to being eaten much worse than it reacts to like a creature like an elephant, like freaking out or just attacking you because it's angry at you, because being eaten is a very primal instinct. It's making you think that, because that's something that could have happened. If you lived tens of thousands of years ago, that was something that was much more likely to happen. Not necessarily by sharks, right? But by, I don't know, maybe tigers. There could be a wolf pack, maybe hyenas, just whatever it was. It was much more likely back then. But your brain is still the same as it was tens of thousands of years ago, practically speaking. And it thinks, hey, if anything that could eat me, that's as scary as you can get. There's nothing scarier than that. So when you hear about a shark attack, there's one or two or something that you might hear about a year. Your brain goes, oh, that just happened right down at the local beach, when it didn't. It could have been some other beach in another state or another country or whatever it is. They're like, your brain thinks that just happened right next door to us. Like, if I was there, it would have been me. Right? And that's what media bias is. See, media bias is very good at getting you to pay attention to certain things that are more like, they trigger responses in you more than other things. Nobody has seen the movie like Hooves, or I don't know if they have hooves, like feet. Let's say feet. That's the elephant version of Jaws. They're like, here comes the feet. The music is coming, and they're coming to stomp you. Right? That's what that movie. Nobody has seen that movie because primally that isn't as scary to us. And although an elephant could surely mangle you and stuff, you're probably not going to be as much so as you would getting attacked by a shark. And that imagery, which is one thing the media, in all of its forms, like, it brings out in you, right? That it's not as visceral, it's not as, like, disgusting, it's not as much blood and as much like, oh, this is a horrible thing, just look at, oh my, I can't believe it. But when you get attacked by a shark, you get that. It happens once in a while, right? Do you see how this is media bias? And it's not just whether you believe it or not. You could believe that you're not gonna get attacked by a shark, or you could believe that you are. But it doesn't matter either way, because this is the story that they're telling you. They're having you pay attention to this. They're covering this story rather than something else, like, oh, this woman planted this beautiful garden or something, or oh, this local school is doing this, or oh, this is happening, or oh, hey, there was an elephant somewhere at maybe a local zoo, or maybe that was out in Africa or something like that killed a couple of people because it was rampaging, because something scared it or something like that, right? You don't hear about that as often as this, even though it happens about 50 times more often, right? So that's media bias. There are a ton of things we can talk about when it comes to media bias. Okay, and we will go over all of those things in the premium version of this, but this is an example of something everybody can kind of understand, right? And the media covers these things because they're more visceral, and they're more of a primal, like I said, fear of the species, of most species actually, is the fear of being eaten, even though it's very unlikely to happen to you. It's kind of like that, what is it? You know how they say the lottery, right? Like Powerball or something. They like to cover the people who get what? Who win. Or you'll see it sometimes in like a gas station or something. You go and they'll be like, hey, there was a $40,000 winning ticket here, or $100,000, or $2 million, and the ticket was sold here. And they advertise that. Do you know why they do that? Media bias, because it makes your brain think that it's a little bit more likely that if you buy a ticket there, you're going to win, because after all, they've already sold some winners. When they say, especially when it's Powerball or something, I read somewhere you're some 241 times, I believe, more likely to get struck by lightning than win Powerball. But you see people win it all the time, like, there's always going to be a winner for every round of Powerball that goes on, and they always cover them, even if it's just one person. If they do that several times a year, it seems like it's happening often, and it is more likely than it is. Same thing with shark attacks, right? If you see it once, your brain thinks that's right down the road. You see someone win Powerball once, and you're thinking, well, it is possible. Somebody won, they went from rags to riches or whatever the case is, and it was right down the road. I bet you it'll happen for me. And they cover it more than once, right? How many times is Powerball drawn a year, right? Whatever it is, think about it this way. It's much less than however many people that are actually buying into and paying for it, right? When's the last time you got struck by lightning 241 times, right? That's, if you can't say, oh, well, that was last year or something, then that's the odds right there. You've probably never been struck by lightning. Have you even met anyone before that had been struck by lightning? Do you see what I'm saying? And even if you had, that's one person, probably. Okay? And you would agree that that was very unusual that you even knew them. But let's get real here. Not only do you need to know one person, you need to know 241 of them for you to think you even have odds to win Powerball, but that's how the media covers it. So anyways, that is media bias for us today. Hopefully we learned a lot today, and we will see you in the next one.